Hello there and welcome to my new video, and this one is the joy of ligation. And I know I've mentioned ligation, but this one is more of a deep dive. So as you can see, Purple Monkey is getting up close and personal trying to ligate that helix that he's so proud of. But this, well, may be a bit of a strange one. So let's start with talking about the stinky smell of success. Because, as a personal aside, ligase buffer contains dithiothreatol, also known as DTT to its friends. So when DNA ligase buffer is fresh and well maintained, then it quite frankly has a little bit of a honk to it. But I find that displeasing smell reassuring. You can tell if your ligase buffer is quite frankly disagreeable to smell, that you know you're in for a reasonably good ligation, or at the very least, the wind is at your back and you have a fighting chance. But still, just like using the sailing metaphor, the seas are not always calm for you. So without further ado, let's go into 4 flavors of different DNA ligation that there are. And this, I have to say, is not an exhaustive list. This is just me putting together 4 categories that I think are worth mentioning. So let's start with the best, which I have alluded to on many occasions, and that's basically directional sticky cloning. And yes, creature of habit, here is good old BAM-H1, there is not one. We've pre-cut our vector, and here we have a nice sticky end protruding here, and one with a different sequence sticking out here from BAM-H1, and sure enough, there's our insert that has been pre-cut. Everything is as it should be, and I can't say enough good things about this approach. It's directional, so it means there is a basically 100% guarantee that if you're going to land, then you will land the right way around. You'll get exactly what you're looking for. Oops, sorry, wrong button. And your insert will just line up. And I didn't bother to do an animation of the actual connection of the ligation, but you get the idea. This is the gold standard, and if you can do it, go for it. However, just like many things, ligation doesn't necessarily present an easy path, so let's go down the list. And yeah, non-directional sticky cloning, and that animation is a small taste of the big fat risk factor. Yes, efficiency is still your friend, so let's focus on that. Yes, you will get colonies, you will get a bunch of them, but it's a reasonable 50-50 split, unless you're cloning something offensive, that yes, you're gonna get half that are backwards. That's no fun. And on top of that, you have to be extra sure to dephosphorylate your vector, otherwise you're gonna get religation, because those ends would love to be reunited. So, not great, but it'll get you out of a pinch, and as I've alluded to in other videos, if you get cute and land compatible sticky ends that actually eliminate the site, you can go down the path of reuse. But now, here is getting further down the list in terms of efficiency is blunt sticky cloning, which I have not mentioned before, which it's actually not a bad fallback. I mean, here we have EcoR5, which, yes, since I don't really use blunt enzymes, I actually had to double check. But yes, EcoR5 does indeed leave a blunt end. It has the GAT-ATC recognition sequence. And why is it bad? Partly because it doesn't have that kinetically favorable sticky end that loves to identify itself and adhere. But in this scenario, we're half good. We've got a not one site, so this has the advantage. It's still directional. Not one will be your guiding star. Yes, your efficiency will not be as good as a full-on directional cloning, but it's a heck of a lot messy than number 2 on our list, where you can get backwards. Yes, you may get less colonies, but still, the wind is at your back on this one too. So I personally would call this a close second. But still, blunt shenanigans is not so great. But here is worthy of mention is 3A, artificial blunt sticky cloning, because if your back is already against the wall for reasons that who knows, but you still manage to pull not one out of the hat, but BAM-H1 or whatever, in this case EcoR1, is not letting you get a break, the vector that you're going into for some reason, and there are vectors out there that offer you a choice of, say, not one and a random blunt dude, probably with this in mind, because it does open up a lot of possibilities, but it may not be immediately apparent. You're seeing EcoR1, it's a sticky end, what on earth? this is a problem, because after all, surely you're going to be wanting to lovingly adhere to this. But how? Oh, how will you ever manage? Well, you can, because I picked Echo R1 because it has a 3' overhang, so this is the 5' end here. And as a result, you can use a variety of polymerases, even just Taq polymerase, but there's also Clenau and various other ones that will happily provide the missing bases of this overhang. They will literally just do the tiniest, well, it's not a PCR, it's just the DNA replication. So with this, you do have to, as much as I dislike chess, you do have to have your head screwed on that, okay, when you're processing your insert even, you would first, for example, cut with Echo R1, then you would treat with your Clenau or whichever polymerase is your choice. So create that blunt end first, then and only then would you then clean and then do not one, because otherwise you don't want something weird to happen that your not one end, okay, it shouldn't get filled in, but there is still the chance that it could get chewed back by mistake or something weird. So, I mean, it's not an ideal situation, but it could get you out of a spot. In fact, funnily enough, just recently, I was actually trying to do a directional cloning, but I'd made a mistake. I had the sticky end, which was not one in this genuine case, but because of a typo, I'd actually not even included my restriction site at all. Red face on me. I should have double-checked my gene block design. But, okay, in that scenario, I actually had a sticky end over here, and it was dear old BAM-H1. But I still went ahead with my ligation, blissfully ignorant of my error, and yet I got colonies, and I thought I was losing my mind because the junction didn't have BAM-H1 anymore, or at least it didn't look quite right, and I was freaking out. It wasn't until I sat down and double-checked my gene block, and I noticed, wait a minute, hello, there was no restriction site here at all. It was literally a blunt something with a not one at the other end. And what had happened was, in a very, very tiny fraction of cases, the BAM-H1 sticky end had fallen off. And normally I'd never see them because there would only be a couple of colonies, and my colony yield was dreadful. But I did see a few survivors, and it basically encouraged me to be better caffeinated in future. But anyway, without further ado, let's move forward to the last and definitely least of the fellows. You can see this coming a mile off, is blunt. The efficiency is on the floor, and worse than that, there is zero guarantee of orientation. So round and round it goes. Where it stops, genuinely nobody knows. It is pretty, dire in terms of situation. But hey, it can get you out of a spot, so it's worth keeping in mind as an emergency option. But anyway, that I think is enough for now, and I've done this in a previous video. I would like to take the chance to say, well, I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you might even have the insane urge to buy me a coffee. But also, feel free to comment where you're watching from, because I'd love to know where my users are at. Or if you just want to comment and suggest a video, I'd like that too. Heck, just comments would be good, so long as you're not, hating on me. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.